The Honourable Maggie Berry.
Kia ora, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was with many of my esteemed colleagues who are gathered around me here tonight at the Blue Greens Forum in Tekapo. It's a wonderful part of the country, and I think it's good for politicians to get out of the rarefied atmosphere of the beehive. Having heard several of the calls from the opposition tonight, it would behove them well to get out and about a little bit more into the community, because far from sitting braying about what might have been and fantasising about what they're not doing, it would be useful, I think, if they got together as we did a few weeks ago. My colleague here, Alfred Nara, of course, is an ardent blue-green, as are many of my colleagues here, because what we tend to do as a government is we're united. Behind our Prime Minister, behind our leader, in stark contrast to Labor, we do more for the environmental and conservation movements the Greens would ever imagine. And I think David Seymour made a couple of excellent points. Seems to be a bit of braying. Maybe some of the people across the other side of the House might have had a little bit too much sun in the dinner break. They're a little flushed and unreasoned. I have heard tonight the struggles some of my colleagues have had to be heard above the cacophony. So I'm going to rise above it, because I do feel that there's some important things to say about the visions that we have around conservation in particular. I'm sure David Seymour will be paying close attention with his newfound love for sanctuaries and eliminating pests and ensuring that the things we love, the taonga species, are protected. So let me talk to you about a broad, big, hairy stretch vision, and that is a predator-free New Zealand. I'm not talking about the opposition at this time. I am focused instead on rats, stoats and possums, primarily. Aerial drops of 1080 are working and will continue to be used. I would request that the Greens stand up and actually come out a little bit on this one and support 1080 in an obvious way. Keep up the work then, Ms Sage. It would be really useful if you joined the chorus of approval rather than carping from the sidelines. We'll leave carp to another time, of course, in their substance. But the thing about having a predator-free New Zealand is that what you need to do is kill the things that are killing the things you love. So we take preemptive strikes. We have the technology to rid a valley or a peninsula of pests, as at Zealandia here or in other parts of the country. But we do need to have a longer-term vision, which really is about eradicating these exotic pests. They have come here from different lands, made this place their own, and now, of course, they need to be dispatched. They are costing the economy $3.3 billion a year in the eradication of these exotic pests. I hope I'm not disturbing any of my colleagues who's a little squeamish about extermination. But I do think it is important to address these issues. The vast habitats our native animals need will be heightened and they will be safe, and the regions will enjoy better tourism also if we can embrace this vision. Take Taranaki. The Maunga Partnership, which was announced in December, is an example of how big goals can be achieved region by region. And you need to involve several partners. Now, DOC is contributing about 1/3 of the cost of the $24 million project in Taranaki. I was there on Thursday for a very exciting launch, along with my colleague, the Honourable Chester Burrows, and others who were really focused, and Jonathan Young, if he's here, as well, and Barbara Kuriga. We were talking about biodiversity in Taranaki, and it's a very important thing to think about collaboration, an unknown for the opposition, of course. But Taranaki Maunga, with its biodiversity vision, has the ability to change the face of conservation in New Zealand. I think that it is incredibly encouraging, and it will be the start of what we hope to roll out over the next few years. Wilding pines, and I commend my friend and colleague Nathan Guy on this. The Ministry for Primary Industries is leading the charge, and we are very focused on getting rid of these wilding pines because we can't afford to back away from the problem. Government, regional authorities, community groups, businesses, philanthropists, and the forestry sector itself need to combine forces. Now, wildings, for those of you who are not up to speed with it, cover about 1.7 million hectares of land already, and they are advancing at a rate of around 6% a year. Now, if we sit back and do nothing, wildings will cover about 22% of our country within the next 20 years, and that is totally unacceptable. Most of the land that they would colonise is arable land. It's good farming, productive land. It's land that we need to use for other things. The wilding conifers don't respect the boundaries. They seed widely and freely, be up to 20 kilometres, in fact, for some of this very fine pollen. So we really need to be on top of this issue, and the New Zealand Wild and Conifer Management Strategy is something that we as a government have bought into. We at central government level will take a leadership role in this, and we will work with others to achieve the goals. That's what this John Key-led government is all about. Fine leadership, strong united caucus and cabinet, strong united thinking and philosophies that will deliver a vision. Again, the opposition are incredulous. These are unknown territories for them. War on weeds is another element of our vision, which is not to be underestimated. It seems to me that while we focus on the birds and while we focus on our creatures, a very important part of our biodiversity, we cannot forget the plants. The war on weeds, which we declared about 6 months ago, has rolled out the dirty dozen, which are common all garden plants, which have got away on us a bit. We need to pull them back. A bit is actually understating it. We spent something like $1.2 million from the DOC Community Fund to help community weed control groups with Weed Busters and the QE2 Trust. And I commend a lot of these smaller groups. Up and down the country, they are united. I was visiting a place in Taranaki on Friday where you had, and as a Minister for Seniors, I would have to say it was incredibly heartening to see a group of about 40 people in their 70s getting together to weed, to plant, to destroy pests, and to create habitats for our creatures. It gets them together doing something with great purpose and meaning. It's good exercise. That's another of our programs we call Healthy Nature, Healthy People, which is where if you get people out into the great outdoors, they're doing something for themselves, but also in the case of the people in Taranaki, and so many groups up and down the country I've seen in the last year are working for the good of our nature. They are working together in a cause that they believe in. We help them out with funding. We also encourage through Kiwi Conservation and a successful new money bid that we got across the line in last year's budget of over $11.2 million. We've invested that in the future of our national bird. The numbers of the national bird are declining at about -2% a year. That's a decline that we need to reverse. We have a target, we have an aim, we have a vision, and that's how you measure what you do, and that's how you manage the problem. Again, unknown territory to the opposition, who've fallen very silent because they are completely at sea with these notions. But when it comes to Kiwis for Kiwi, the turnaround has begun. We're working with New Zealander of the Year nominee Rob Fennick to help community groups protect the birds and protect their habitats. We are boosting DOC's own funding by more than $6 million a year, and that will be from 2018 onwards, expanding breeding programs such as Kiwi creches, Kohanga Kiwi, and pest control, as well as monitoring all of the existing populations. The whole game really around this is to protect the birds, the Kiwis in particular, so that they get to a stage where they can help themselves. And at a time when they are about 1 kilogram in weight, they are then able to they can fight off anything, actually, Kiwis. That's why our national bird, I think, they're fierce. They may not look the most elegant birds, they don't fly, but they have commendable character and they are extraordinary birds at looking after themselves, but they need a bit of help along the way. So if we turn that -2% decline into a +2% increase, we will have about an extra 7,000 more birds, and that means they will be able to proliferate in the wild. My dream is to ensure that they're audible. They keep people awake at night in the suburbs around New Zealand. We want their bird numbers to go up. We need to be able to work with the tools that we have in nature and conservation. Just going through some of the issues that we've been dealing with at the Arts Culture Heritage area. Tonight I signed a co-production agreement with the Israeli government so that we can have films and television, shared projects, shared collaboration between those countries. That is the 17th co-pro we have signed over the past few years, and it means that the ties that bind the countries that we have cultural links with will only increase at a stronger level. The Ministry for Culture and Heritage is working with a lot of different regions to mark the anniversary as well of World War 100. This year we're moving away from Gallipoli and into commemorating the battle sites of Europe, and we are opening plinths and telling the New Zealand story internationally. I'd like to finish my call tonight on seniors, which is the third portfolio responsibility that I have. Leading the fight against social isolation, which is a newfangled way maybe of describing loneliness. We need to get rid of that corrosive element and stop the lead and decline of loneliness and social isolation into elder abuse, which is a big problem in New Zealand. Around 2,000 cases are reported currently, and that is probably a real underestimation. There are closer to 18,000. So the challenges continue, Mr. Speaker, but I think this government, under John Key's strong leadership, is well up for the programme. You'll see that I'm wearing the alternative flag. I will be voting for that, and I would urge others to look beyond the
I'm sorry
flag
to
that we have
interrupt
to
the
the
member.
future.
Her time
Thank you,
has
Mr.
expired.